This is the third video in the Pink Peony Journal Collection series. Her name is Portia. She is made from some gorgeous floral linen fabric that I purchased at the April Cornell store, and this was in the attic section, which is where they have their bargains, and I love to buy remnants, and this was a tablecloth, and it was just so beautiful I had to get it. She's got one of these gorgeous little wrap closures, and they're completely removable. It's using a vintage pink dresser scarf. I've used some of Sheila's beautiful sari silk ties. You can buy them in packages of different colors, so that's what I was using for these. When I am using fabric and such that is not part of a bundle where they're all custom dyed together, this is what I use when I use them, is to coordinate with any of the fabrics that I've got. So we'll remove her wrap, and that's what it looks like. It's got the doilies on the back. I've stitched the sari ribbons inside, and then this is the outside. So it's got some vintage appliques on it and the beautiful rose-colored flower, very pale rose color. This is the booklet that I've created to go on the top pocket that the wrap creates when you leave it tied up. Beautiful blush colored applique. Those were from Suzi. I've got some beautiful beads, pink beads, and I've stitched or threaded some seam binding through the insert there that I've created. I actually just make my own template and then rip the paper and thread the seam binding through and then attach it. Some stamping, beautiful image, some more stamping and older papers. This is the beautiful rose gold metallic splattered avocado dyed paper. I buy it, several different kinds of avocado dyed paper, of course, and coffee stained paper that have the splatters in them. Just find that it's easier to buy them ready-made than to try and do it myself. This is another piece of Suzi's custom dyed rose-colored lace bundle and some stamping. So this is the fabric. It's just the most beautiful pattern. I love it. And I've used Craft X as my base. These are the vintage buttons that I have selected for this binding. And we will go inside. I've got some beautiful embellished trim right here, and this journaling card or book board can just sit right inside, and I've attached a ruffle to it made from some ticking, beautiful vintage scarf that I cut up to make a smaller little skirt kind of ruffle, and then a vintage applique and some German book page and a sweet little girl, flower girl image. Some vintage applique lace that I've tea dyed, and a sweet little booklet made out of some embossed papers, and I've just rubbed wax on them just faintly, and a applique with pearls and sequins. Some more beautiful vintage pink applique lace trim on the side edge. And in this pocket, you can write whatever sentiment you would like on that label. Just a small envelope, extra journaling space, a journaling card stamped on the back with a peony, and a medium-sized tall tag with a peony stamped on the back as well. I'm so pleased with how this series has come out. I just love creating any journals, really I do, but these have been on my plate for 2 years, as I mentioned in the first video. I printed the digitals, tea-dyed the papers, cut them all, and had them all ready to start, and it's just taken me until now to complete this project. So it feels really good. I don't usually do that. But what I did was recently I went through all my digitals, whether I have tea-dyed them or not, and put them each in a folder and labeled them and put them in my very deep drawered filing cabinet, and it makes it just so easy to see what I've got so that I don't do any repeat buying. And I can see which ones are tea-dyed and which ones are not. So it just was a real and good investment of my time in organizing my digitals. Some vintage piano paper behind here, some scrap of digital papers that I've just torn up and collaged, a die cut, and I've printed out some tags that I've made with special font from my computer, and done my own little sentiments. Again, I've got a whole pile of those that I cut up and just put them in one of these little Tim Holtz tins. So I've just got them handy and ready to use. I don't have to just make them, create them for each project I do. I do things in mass. If you've noticed, quite a lot of what I do, I stretch it to, first of all, get the maximum use out of my supplies and also my time. I mean, you might think it's a little daunting to make 4, 5, 6, or 7 journals at a time. It may take a little longer, but you get an idea to do a certain tag or a certain page, certain laces, and I just make sure that I've got the quantity to be able to do what I want to do, and then it does go very quickly. I think I made all 4 of these journals in 1 month, and I did a lot of traveling, a lot of time away from my family. I watch my granddaughter half time, which is 2.5 full days a week. So I don't just have the luxury of creating journals anymore. I'm trying to just make the most of my time. And I love doing this so very much, of course. These are the sweet pea tags that we learned how to create in Vermont at our retreat from Sheila. Some gold embossed stamping, some collaging, some napkin decoupage, and vintage French book page, beautiful gold bling trim, and some chiffon ribbon at the top. Here I've done a tall tag just with some paper punched edge at the bottom, and a piece of the beautiful, beautiful velvet that came with the bundle that I purchased. The first video that I've named, the journal that I've named Pippa, that's the color of the velvet bundle accessories that I got. And it just layered up a few different types of paper and a beautiful little flower girl image, a tiny tag made out of Edith Holden book page, a dangle, a bulb pin, and some pretty fiber tag topper. Some vellum paper, vintage music paper. This is also a little tuck spot. You can put something small. And here is a gorgeous swatch card using Sheila's beautiful embroidered blingy trim. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And then I just used a piece of vintage lace behind it because this was narrower than the other pieces that I had for the other journals. So I put 2 pieces in here. And the tag toppers, and of course these just are really popular right now. I haven't seen any done with Sheila's trim, but the lace swatches and tags and cards are so popular right now. I just love them. Some vintage Bible and Shakespeare book page, a crocheted vintage applique that came from a round doily. I just cut the flowers off. This is a piece of the seam binding that you get with the velvet bundle, all in the same color, so I know everything's going to match. And this whole series is everything from very, very light blush to dark pink and even purple. So it all coordinates very, very sweetly. Some beautiful pink insert lace. Here is a single pocket floating tag that I've created using the digitals, and this is a small booklet with a little tuck spot here, and I used a tab at the top of the tags. Extra journaling space. Here is a sweet ruffle that I created, stitching it to paper first and then just adhering it to the page, and I just love that effect. I think that's just the coolest technique. More avocado paper, this beautiful sequin trim on the page edge, and a pocket using a tall skinny tag stamped on the back with peonies. Some vintage Emily Dickinson poetry, vintage sheet music, and this is a piece of that beautiful hanky that I talked about. It's just so gauzy and filmy and drapey and veil-y. I just love it. The beads and charms that I've chosen for this dangle, as I mentioned, I'm really into the long dangles right now. I just love them. So it's got quite a few beads and then a beautiful pink flower charm and a pearl charm at the bottom here. And all of these gorgeous beads. These are probably a little bit more on the mauvey pink side for this journal. A little tiny belly band with some collaging and a fussy cut flower you can tuck in there. Some of Suzi's custom rose dyed beautiful lace. It's another embellished paper clip with peonies that I've fussy cut. And it is an envelope with an extra journaling card. Actually, I think I had this going that way. Extra journaling card and one of the antique postcards that I've got from the Niagara Falls series, dated 1907. So this whole set, I got a whole set of them, are well over 100 years old and in great shape. Some stamping of the beautiful peony and some beautiful silk dusty rose ruffle on the page edge. Here I've got a tall tag in this slotted tag die cut there, some fussy cut flowers, and a tall tag that I've used some paper punching on the bottom. And this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scalloped lace on the side edge of the page. I've got a collaged image there of some peonies and the back of the book page. And then on this side, we've got this gorgeous cross-stitched textile that came from the bottom edge of a pillowcase. So I just cut it into pieces and sewed it onto each journal page for one in each of the journals. Sweet pea tag with all kinds of collaging, stamping, and beautiful gold bling piece on there. And it keeps it protected in this pocket because the textile is a little bit heavier. It's still really soft, as you can imagine. It came from a pillowcase, so it's very soft. I love it. Another beautiful applique. These ones I think I purchased at a vintage market somewhere. A journaling card on that side, and then one of these lace board tags that we created at our retreat just by layering all kinds of vintage lace, and then I stitched it and backed it onto parchment paper so it would be a little bit more sturdy, and then tuck it into this beautiful vintage lace on the side here. Some vellum paper. Here is some more vintage lace, or sorry, vintage fabric that I've made a ruffle with, and some stamping, some beautiful Victorian rose. What do you call it? Yeah, dusty rose. Something that we don't use that term much anymore, but it was so crazy popular in the Victoriana and farmhouse decor stages back probably about 25 years ago. This is a side tag that I've used, that I've created using Edith Holden book page, backed it onto parchment paper, just run a little bit of seam binding through with some beautiful pink vintage shank buttons, and another small embellished paper clip, some stamping, and a pocket here with a small, medium-sized booklet, some beautiful stamping, and beautiful vintage scalloped pink and white lace edging that page. And one more tag. This is a double pocket floating tag. And for extra journaling space, it's got a tiny little booklet and some beautiful vintage lace with insert satin ribbon on the edge of this page. And that brings us to the end of the journal. Beautiful piece of Sheila's embellished, embroidered, sequined trim. And then the two booklets that I've included the same in each journal. Some beautiful vintage lace just created out of artisan paper for extra journaling space. And a sweet little girl image on here with a antique French applique that's super delicate. A little vintage button attached to a bulb pin, some pink lace, and I've just stitched it together. And then added some sweet little beads onto the threads for stitching together this little booklet, and just some stamping of peonies for extra writing space. And so this is Portia, and she is beautiful. She's got about 68 pages to write your special memories on there if you choose to, or she makes a beautiful gift, and that is her wrap. So I thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the flip through, and that you are inspired to try making something like this for yourself. Have a great day.